What's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alec Pavlovic. We have an official coaching staff. The update Giants Talk has been waiting for finally came through. So we'll dive into the coaches for the 2026 team. Plus, pitchers and catchers report to Scottsdale tomorrow. So it's finally here. The offseason's over. Actual content is around the corner. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's Sleep World is kicking off the year with their President's Day sale, where you can save up to $1,200. Mattresses start at incredible prices, like Beauty Rest Queen mattresses starting at just $299. Plus, you can get 0% financing for up to 60 months, including on Tempur-Pedic, with payments starting as low as $29 a month. Visit sleepworld.com. All right, Alex, before we get into the coaching staff, pitchers and catchers are reporting. It's been a long offseason for us. When does Alex report?
Beat writers are reporting today, so I will be on a flight to Arizona. Quickly, Kyle Harrison is now reporting to Arizona.
I saw that.
To the Milwaukee Brewers for Caleb Durbin. I think it was like a 6-player deal. So that the Devers deal is down to like a 19-year-old A-ball or whatever, like an A-ball pitcher or something. So
I'm also surprised by, it seems like, beyond the Devers part, which they already processed half a year ago, Red Sox fans aren't really seeming like they're going to miss Harrison.
At least they spent the money on Alex Bregman.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm happy for Kyle because seemed like he was hopelessly buried there in Boston. Yeah. And Milwaukee's one of those places where random dudes turn into like legit like frontline starters, and not that he's a random dude. He's a like first round caliber talent coming out of college and a very highly ranked prospect. So that is a great place to go if you want to break through as a pitcher, and hopefully he gets a shot.
Yeah.
But to your original question, yes, I'm headed to Scottsdale tonight. Tuesday morning, our first access with Tony Vitello and
Great.
This newish look San Francisco Giants team. I know we usually do this at the end, like what to follow, but just a reminder, NBC Sports Bay Area for all stories, Twitter, Blue Sky for news. What else we got? Instagram, YouTube for videos.
Yeah, I think most important for me in my spring training following journey is just following your Instagram stories.
Videos.
You're there posting the stuff that I want to see, when the text-based tweet doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, Pavlovic NBCS on Instagram, Alex Pavlovic Giants on YouTube. It is a great place for video. It is like you're standing there watching. I remember back in the day, I'd be like, we have Buster Posey versus Madison Bumgarner live batting practice. What do I do with this? Like, this should be streamed on 7 different TV channels right now in the Bay Area.
Give the people what they want, and it's on at NBC. Pavlovic NBCS.
Yes, I will try to put a lot on Instagram stories and on YouTube shorts and stuff like that the next couple of weeks. And I do think also, like, if people, Giants Talk listeners, if you have specific requests, like, I want to see what so-and-so looks like. What does he actually look like? So let me know. We'll happy to shoot stuff out there and send it back.
You've been doing spring training for ages at this point. Do you have any like day one routines? You stop at AJ's for groceries? Is there like a night one restaurant to set the tone?
I think everyone goes to Chop Shop the first day just because we haven't been there in forever. So probably go get a nice little juice, pretend I'm healthy, and coming off a Super Bowl party, just go. Yeah,
that's fair. You can't just like swing by Culver's on day one when it's right after the Super Bowl.
No, spring training is a weird thing, and somebody sent us a mailbag question a while ago about like what a day in the life of a beat writer is like. So maybe I'll do a spring training day in the life at some point. But it is like you live there but don't live there. So you day one is honestly like go get groceries because you're gonna be there for 2 weeks, or most people longer, but for me like 2 weeks initially and then come back. So it is a weird one. You like kind of move into. I added it up at one point, and I've spent more than a year of my life in Arizona, just because of Diamondbacks trips and spring training. Like there were years where I did like 45 days. So you're like, okay, I guess I live in Scottsdale now.
Well, this stint in Scottsdale begins shortly. I'm jealous of you. I don't think I'm going to make a trip this year, but that could pivot as spring training gets interesting.
I feel like you said that before, and then one day I just see you standing
That's
behind
true.
the rope, and I'm like,
That's true. You
Cole?
just like randomly run into me on the side of the mountain. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Well, we will. I think most importantly, we will have real live baseball updates, and
Yes.
even if it's not like there's Freddie Peralta throwing a bullpen session or whatever, which I saw this morning from Mets beat writers. Like there will be new Giants, there will be young Giants, there will be actual baseball updates as opposed to. I appreciate everyone who listened for the last few months. Like there were times where we're like, should we dial it back to once a week? Because nothing's going on. So,
well,
that's what I'm excited about.
The final non-baseball update of the season came at perfect timing. We got a lot of questions about emergency podcasts, but we decided to save it for the usual schedule. We have a coaching staff. We joked a lot about how the 2026 Giants coaching staff was kind of lingering unannounced. So it's officially been released. Alex, should we go through this name by name? How do you want to tackle this?
I think we can go name by name. The weird thing is we knew all of these names. There was one thing that Tony was waiting on and I guess never came to fruition. We'll ask him on Tuesday.
Okay.
Why it took so long. But we do have a full coaching staff. It is, as expected, Jace Tingler is the bench coach. Jace has known Tony for 2 decades. They're close friends. He's a former Padres manager. He was the bench coach in Minnesota the last 4 years. He is crucially someone who has done this before and knows how to challenge, knows how to just knows how to do everything. I would imagine Jace is putting together a lot of spring training, like a lot of the day-to-day. And so there's his experience along with Ron Washington, who's their infield coach. I
love him surrounding himself with a guy like Ron Washington, awesome, been around the game forever, brings a lot to it, but a guy that he knows extensively and trusts through like having such a existing relationship like Jace Tingler is huge to be his right-hand man.
Yeah, it's really important to have that guy who's just done this before. And then for Jace, like, kind of a lot on the line. He's sure he wants to manage again and has been a bench coach. And this is one of those, I look at this a little bit like the Gabe Kapler initial staff, where it's a bunch of young guys who look at now, like Craig Albernez is a manager, Donnie Eckers is bench coach, like Correa is on the way up. He was a manager for a weekend one time. Like,
that's right. He's been a manager.
So I think there's some guys like that on this staff. I'll just keep going. Hunter Mentz, we know is the hitting coach, came from Toronto. We talked about him when he got hired. His assistant is Oscar Bernard, who has been there. He was there last year. The important thing with him is his Spanish speaking. So we have that whole side of the clubhouse as well. No third hitting coach, at least for now. They've had that the last few years. Most teams do have that now. So that's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, especially for a team that struggled offensively last year.
Yeah, it is. I'm so accustomed to everyone trying to add. So
yeah, let's fill that traveling plane up with coaches.
And maybe that was what I did hear some rumors about potential hitting coach additions in the offseason. So maybe that's what held us up, is just never got the guy he wanted. The pitching coach is Justin Message, who comes from, like I mentioned, Milwaukee, good place for pitchers. Was in AAA with them last year. Christian Wonders is their assistant pitching coach. He is very young. He's the youngest guy on staff. I think he's 33. Comes from Tampa. Good place to come from when you're a coach. He seems like he is the I don't want to call him the nerd. Like it seems like he is the biomechanics, the new
the scientist, the data guy has a whole different archetype built into it. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We could say nerd. Nerds rule the world now.
He's done a lot of that the last couple of years, the pitching development. And then I think the one that everyone knew was Frank Anderson, who was Brett Anderson's dad. He was with Tony in Tennessee. He was there with him the whole time. He is the director of Major League Pitching, and he is like Brian Bannister. Like, he's overseeing everything. What he has done is develop, like, I think over 100 of his players in college went on to pitch or went on to get drafted. So he has developed for many, many years, and that'll be a big part of this. Like, I would imagine he has his hands in everything, just like Brian Bannister was looking at prospects, looking at draft picks. Jesse Chavez, the bullpen coach, until the Atlanta Braves decide they need a reliever. He will be in the bullpen. Shane Robinson is the first base coach. He was with the Giants last year in the minor leagues. He is an outfield guy, so he's probably going to be in charge of Elliot Ramos and Jung Hoo Lee.
Okay.
That outfield defense. Hector Borg, the third base coach. This is a cool one. Hector was signed by the Giants internationally in 2004. He has been a coach in there since 2008. I've known him a long time just because I would see him at affiliates. He's been at affiliates that don't even exist anymore, like Salem Kaiser and Augusta, and he's just been doing this a long time. And this is similar to, when Gabe promoted some guys internally, and like Tyra Yamatsu got more responsibility, and Mark Hallberg got more responsibility, and this is that. And a lot of pressure on him. Third base coach, that is a very visible job. But
yeah,
this is not an ageist thing. I kind of like the young third base coach. I think it's a job with a lot of homework, and a job where, you have split second decisions to make out there. And so I'm curious to see how this goes for him. But on paper, I think checks a lot of boxes for what you would want out there in that box.
All right. Any big questions looking at this list? I mean, I got a question from a few listeners I just want to pose to you, and that is, they saw infield coach listed, first base coach, no outfield coach. Now, you mentioned Robinson has outfield experience. Is that the equivalent of having an outfield coach? Is outfield coach just not a standard role?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest with first base coaches. There's not as much to do in that role. Is they're involved a lot in base running, but usually the first base coach has other responsibilities. And similar to Antoine Richardson, who we talked about, he's an outfield guy as well. He's known now for what he's done in base stealing, but he's an outfield coach. He coached the outfielders here. So we again haven't talked to Tony since this got announced, and it got announced 3 days before spring training. So we're we'll see you Tuesday. We'll get some details here, but I would assume it's Shane. And Jace Tingler he's a former outfielder, and he has experience there as well. So they'll be covered there. Infield is just more involved. It's just a million ground balls a day. And
it's getting reps.
Outfield's a little bit easier. The left field is where they put. Yeah,
it's where they put Cole when he was playing Little League.
Wasn't going to say it, but yes. And then I mentioned Tyra. His back is quality control coach. Eliezer Zambrano is bullpen catcher. He was the bullpen catcher last year. And then Alex Berg is also staying. He was the catching coach last year. He famously is the guy who caught the ball from Camilo Duvall when the lights went out during a light show.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he got promoted as well. He's field coordinator and catching coach. But that is their whole staff, mostly newcomers.
Mostly young.
Yeah, 7 of the 9 are under 50. Most of them early 40s, which is great for me and you.
Yeah.
And one who's in his early 30s.
Okay. The other thing that kind of stands out that is just so tonally different than what we had over the past few years is just Giants legends shoved in there. We're not seeing 100 Pence in there. We're not, obviously, Pat Burrell's not in there. So change of pace, and I get it.
It's a little rough for the people who every time there's turnover, is Baumgartner going to be the pitching coach?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you even know how to get in touch with him?
No, I don't think know that he has a cell phone.
He's probably on boats and riding horses and is I don't think we're going to see much of that down the line. I think I don't know where the line is, but there was a line where all of a sudden you start doing well enough that you just don't want to. You're I don't need to coach after.
Yeah.
And there's guys who are exceptions. When Ryan Vogelsong's son graduates high school, I'm sure he's going to be a pitching coach somewhere because he loves it, and he's done some of that stuff. And Joe Panic's done some instructing, but for the most part, I don't think we're going to see those guys other than spring training and come back to the ballpark, get your numbers put your name on the wall of fame. Get your number retired for some of them.
That's why Buster's built different.
Yeah. So he also does not have to take ground balls to anybody.
That's true. That's true. You can wear a suit and some Lululemon pants.
It's a difficult job, but does not have to get dirty.
Yeah, that's fair.
And yeah, so it's young staff, Tony's staff, basically handpicked. Took a while, but they're here. They'll be out there on Tuesday, and we finally have a coaching staff. I can stop complaining. Most importantly,
you can. Yeah, I am curious now. I have this what was holding it up, so I am excited. If that piece of information comes out, that'll be an exciting story for me to read.
Yeah, we'll ask on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
all right. Speaking of asking on Tuesday, you have a lot of questions going into camp. Give us how do we want to frame this, Alex? You're obviously sitting down. You're getting to know guys. You have your first order of business once you start work at Scottsdale, once spring training begins. And what are the big questions you're asking?
Well, first is to eat, usually.
Yes, sure.
Have a nice little breakfast staring out over the baseball field. We are also back to, I guess I'm back to, I have to write every day instead of just podcasting in the off season. So
yeah.
My spring preview story, the old traditional 5 questions for Giants in camp. We thought we would go through some of that here.
There we go.
Just talk about some main discussion points over the next 6-7 weeks. Number 1, which is kind of what we brought up last podcast when we had a guy who had covered Tony on for a while, is Tony Vitello. It is, we've circled back to the beginning of the offseason where it was day 1, Bob Melvin gets fired and they have a search and ends up being Tony. And tomorrow he will be giving a speech to these guys. He will be talking to the media. He will be doing whatever we'll see what he's day to day is like, how it differs from Bob or Gabe Kapler, or I'm sure it'll be very different from Bob, but maybe more like Gabe, just all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing is this, this next 6-7 weeks is him. He hasn't really gotten to spend much time with a lot of his players. Like he's been visiting guys, obviously went to South Korea, went to the Dominican, has been in Scottsdale in and out, but has not gotten to really get to know a lot of these guys. So I think that's something that's important to him. And he's talked about a lot in his time with us. And most importantly, from our point of view, is just kind of like, how are they reacting? How are the veterans reacting to Tony and this new staff? And can he get more out of, all of the things we've been talking about for 2 months? Can he get more out of Elliot Ramos in left field? Can he get, more out of his young infielders? Can this staff figure out Hayden Birdsong? So it starts on Tuesday. I think that's the most important question for camp. And honestly, I think that's the most important question for the whole year.
Yeah, it's the Tony signing happened so long ago at this point, one of the first orders of business of the offseason that we have just been talking about him a lot with nothing but vibes and ideas, and this is going to be great. And now it's the start of when the real work begins, I guess. And obviously it's not till we get actual big league counting games, starting in late March, early April, that we get a real look at him. We get to see how it all clicks. But I'd kind of forgotten that we have almost no data about this guy.
Yeah. And they're really putting a lot on his shoulders. I mean, it has been something that's been relayed to Giants players and some agents, and a lot of where's the improvement coming from? A lot of this from the front office, and a lot of what we've talked about this quiet offseason is a real belief from Buster Posey and Zach Manassian and ownership and this whole group that Tony and his guys can make a huge difference. And it's a risk, but they've put a lot on him, and there's a lot of Tony, come and fix this. So we'll see if he can.
All right. Question number 2. Do you want me to tackle any of these? I can read your questions. You wrote them.
But I don't have an answer to this one.
Yeah. All right. So question number 2, who is the closer?
We will find out over the next. It is Ryan Walker is a favorite right now. There's some other guys who are in that mix. I think Peguero's interesting, given what we saw at times. again, could see one of these young guys pop up, especially like a Birdsong, I think has the ability to do it. But we tried to corner Tony on this. We tried to corner Buster on this. And basically it comes down to Ryan Walker as the favorite, but there's going to be a spring competition. And I think Tony has talked about closer by committee and going that way.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how camp goes. We'll see what Walker looks like and how they feel about him when they get their eyes on him, in person. I do think it's important with him to remember that for the 7 blown saves last year and all the trouble in Verlander starts and all that we talked about, the year before he moved into the 9th and was flawless.
That's what I was going to say.
Better.
We've discussed like Birdsong being one of the pivotal moves for what could go right for this year. But actually, I feel like it's probably Walker being right is the best case scenario for someone who just has the juice this year.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that could happen to them in Scottsdale is like those first couple times out in the Cactus League. He comes in the 4th inning like relievers do and just looks awesome and just looks like 2 years ago and strikes out the side and the breaking ball's back and not hanging over the heart of the zone. And so that's an important one. It would solve other problems if you could just say, Ryan Walker, you're the closer, and let's see if this is more like it looked 2 years ago than points of last year. Which brings me to my next question of camp, because that's why I think closer is so important. Because who else is who's pitching the 7th? Who's pitching the 8th? Who's filling out the bullpen? I mean, there are guys. There's Peguero. There's Buto. There's Tristan Beck. We've seen some flashes at times. Eric Miller's back and healthy. But there's no real hierarchy here. And one thing I don't think we've talked about much is just like that Randy Rodriguez injury. Just it sucked at the time. And it's so it was so destabilizing to everything else, because if you had Rodriguez and Walker right now, you could feel pretty good about putting the rest of it together. So they kind of need to find that second guy, and they need to find the third guy. They need to figure out all these lefties who they have, which ones end up standing at the end of camp. But I don't have the answers. We've joked about this one, like opening day, Logan Webb pitches well, Giants have a lead. And it's like, who pitches the 7th? Who pitches the 8th? Who pitches the 9th? What's your order there?
I'll tell you who. Logan Webb pitches the 7th, Logan Webb pitches the 8th, and Logan Webb pitches the 9th.
I know that's your answer. And maybe with the WBC, he'll be ready for that.
That's true. He's stretched out.
Okay, day 4, Adrian Hauser pitches 5 innings. What's your plan to get the next 12 outs?
So, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Spencer Bivens.
That could be as well. So multiple guys are going to have to emerge in Scottsdale and in April, but really in Scottsdale, it's going to be similar to how Bivens last year. It was like, hey, you're on the team now.
Exactly.
And by the way, you'll be here all year. Is there a step up for Bivens? Is there another mile per hour or two that he found in the offseason and a new pitch? And that's what Scottsdale's for. But it is interesting with this group, because I think I've looked at the list on paper and I'm like, you could very easily pick your bullpen right now and just guys that we know. You could also go through it and be like, I need 4 newcomers.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Which they won't do. I mean, it'll be mostly guys that we know, but they need to figure that group out a little bit. And that is the clear weak spot on this roster right now.
And we mentioned potentially a guy like Bednar making a jump. But beyond that, are there that many AAA names floating around there ready?
I think what could happen and what could solve some problems, and it's not ideal out of camp, but some of these young guys like a Tidwell, Birdsong, maybe McDonald, who we've seen flashes of, a lot of them are going to end up in the bullpen anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe it starts now for some of them. You don't want to give up on the starting path for some of these guys as well. Especially I think like a Birdsong and a Tidwell, guys who look like they could be real rotation pieces going forward. But some young guys going to have to emerge in camp and do the Landon Roop from a couple years ago.
Yes.
And be that guy. It's not as clean cut of a competition as last spring when it was like Roop, Birdsong, Harrison. How do you figure this out? And who ends up in the bullpen? There are other guys. I keep thinking about Carson Seymour, just as this big dude who throws hard. And in theory, like you see him out there, looks like the kind of guy that all of a sudden puts it together in a bullpen.
I'm just, my brain just went here, but is he the tallest pitcher with Sean Jelly gone?
He might be. Yeah.
I'm trying to even think who is up there with him.
He might be. We'll see in that whole row. The row of big dudes it's a little bit smaller now, but it's somebody's gonna have to emerge, and that's a big question for Scottsdale.
Yeah. All right. Question number 4, Alex. Who fills out the bench?
We think we know. Like we have. We think Suzak's the favorite to be the catcher. The Rule 5 status helps quite a bit. There are other guys in that mix. Drew Gilbert looks like the front runner to be the 4th outfielder. We know Matos and Encarnacion are out of options. Schmidt, utility guy. Koss, utility guy. Tyler Fitzgerald still in that mix. Some other newcomers, non-roster guys. I was looking back at last year's opening day roster, and I was reminded that they kept 4 outfielders and 7 infielders, and sometimes just weird things happen in camp, even aside from injuries. And like a Christian Koss pops up, and we're just like, oh, he's on the team.
Yeah.
So they really like him. And so we think we know, but there are some jobs to be won or lost in camp. They could send Gilbert back to AAA. They could try to keep guys who are out of options. Maybe Matos comes back and just looks awesome. And is the best player in camp or the best hitter in camp. And it's one of those, like we've seen that with guys before. So that'll be decided as well. I also think it leads into my last one here, which is what's the plan with Bryce Eldridge? And part of this with him, like the bench mix is partly dependent on what they do with Bryce, because if he's your DH and Devers is your first baseman and Arias is your second baseman, you're a little more limited in what you can do with the roster. And you also probably need something different on your bench, like a little more flexibility. Somebody who can play some more positions, like makes somebody like Christian Koss really valuable, because you have these 3 left-handed hitting, like right side of the infield types. So it's a puzzle, and some pieces will fall into place when they decide what to do with certain guys. But there's a lot of guys going into camp, like familiar names, Matos, Fitzgerald, Koss, all those guys I mentioned, who are legitimately fighting for jobs.
Yeah, I think the plot line that'll be one of the most interesting to watch will be the 4th outfielder situation, because Drew Gilbert made such a splash, but we obviously have such a history with Matos. Encarnacion off the bench in late innings with a bat would be great. But someone's just got to pull ahead in Scottsdale to make the decision for us.
Yeah, and the other thing about that race is all 3 starting outfielders are playing in the WBC. So
yes,
those games like will legitimately be like
showcases. Like, you guys are, all 3 of you are playing every night.
Exactly. You're in center, Matos, you're in left, Encarnacion, you're in right, whatever it is. Like you guys get 3 at bats today. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic.
And make the best of them. And then I mentioned it, just the last one here. Bryce Eldridge is potentially the most important story of the entire season. Like, it's given the prospect pedigree, given who they think he is going down the line. A weird offseason for him, was in trade rumors, dealt with it. He is either there on opening day and we're like, is Bryce Eldridge going to get his first home run against the Yankees, or it's a major story if he's back in AAA. So
yeah,
one way or another, they have to figure it out. I think he did get the cup of coffee in September. It was also very limited. And I think
he also didn't hit the snot out of the ball.
He technically hit the snot out of the ball because the exit velocities were off the chart.
That's true.
But he has a lot of production to show for it. So, what are they going to do with Bryce? It's a major question for this entire season. And, if he's also, like, I always talk about, like, swing pieces like Birdsong. Like, Bryce Eldridge is right there as well. Like, there's a huge difference between him needing a couple more months in AAA and him just being like, hey, I'm going to give you guys 24 homers this year. Like, there's going to be some other stuff. There's going to be some strikeouts. There's going to be, maybe the batting average isn't going to be very high. Learning first base, but, like, here's a nice little addition, like 24 home runs to this lineup or whatever. So we'll see in camp I think it's going to look good. I mean, we saw when he was in camp last year, you know what he's capable of. It's just a matter of, do they want to start that process on opening day, or do they want to start it on April 20th or May 15th or whatever it is?
I'm like, my mind is being blown right now. The Bryce Eldridge train had left the station for me mentally. Like, we are going, buy your jersey, he'll be there. But yeah, you're right. There is a possibility in this world that he isn't on the opening day roster for whatever reason, whether it's he needs more time to cook in spring training or they want to go a different direction temporarily. So that will be interesting to see. I kind of have to like reframe what I'm expecting out of opening day now.
I would have him on my opening day roster.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to see what he can do and see if there's a real jolt here. And, you know, maybe it's down lower in the lineup, but you have real power down there lower in the lineup and game-changing power. But again, it's a good reminder, has not played a whole lot in the minor leagues. Mm-hmm. Did not play a whole lot in AA, like 65 games in AAA. So there's an argument that they can make if they want more development. We'll see if they do it.
Yeah. All right. That is Alex's top 5 questions to be answered in camp. Spring training is right around the corner. Alex leaves shortly. And I'm excited to start getting answers to these questions.
Alex, answers.
So. I hope so too. Yeah. Before we get to mailbag questions, I just want to take a quick look around the league to see what's going on. We already tackled one. Kyle Harrison traded to Milwaukee. We'll be seeing a little more of him there than we would have in Boston, especially immediately in spring training.
We will see him in Maryville.
Yeah.
So a weird. Have you been to Maryville?
I have not. I'm going to be honest. When I go to spring training, when it's a road trip, it's an away game, I'm hiking. I'm going to watch on TV. I'm doing something else.
You're at, what is it, R&R?
Exactly. Yeah.
Salty Senorita?
I'm right there. I pull up
Maryville's just in like North Phoenix. It's a weird,
okay.
It takes forever to get there. But nice park.
Okay.
So that's where we found out. I was headed there when we found out Bryce Harper was going to be a Philadelphia Philly.
Oh, wow.
I'll always remember, like, tweeting on the highway. So, oops. Yeah, we'll see. We will see Kyle at some point.
Awesome. And then one more note around the league. Just thought this was a fun one to relay. Skubal in arbitration, which the numbers just looked so wildly different between him and the Tigers, tried to pull the Tim Lincecum move, bringing the Cy Young trophy to the hearing.
Did he actually do it? I read back and forth on Twitter.
I read he brought it, but didn't get a chance to whip it out, so to speak.
Timmy also did not.
Is that incorrect lore?
There's some incorrect lore there. Maybe I'll get Bobby Evans on here at some point to just really drill down. But I did talk to Bobby when I was writing my book, and there is some incorrect lore there, but we'll let it.
Let it live. I was ready to like attribute that story to your book. Hey, for anyone that's read the franchise, you know the story about Tim Lincecum bringing his.
No, that was one of those where like I was also like I could write a whole chapter about this arbitration hearing, but need to write about how they found him.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, mental checklist to have Bobby on the podcast at some point.
I feel like you told me Santa's not real.
Sorry.
I am devastated right now.
I believe they were there. I don't think it was as queer as like.
I mean, the lore is like he walks in, puts him on the table, and doesn't say anything, and that's my argument.
Which they had a deal before that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some. We'll drill down. So.
Okay, great. Well, with that, let's get to some mailbag questions. But first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. At Mancini Sleep World, every mattress is backed by Mancini's Rest Easy Promise, which includes a 365-night comfort guarantee. Try your mattress for a full year. If it's not the right fit, they'll make it right. Free next-day delivery and old mattress removal. Buy today, sleep better tomorrow at no extra cost. And a best price guarantee. If you find a better deal, they'll beat it. Just visit sleepworld.com. Okay, Alex, our first question today is from Brian. Brian says, I've been joking with friends that the Giants might be following the Padres' footsteps, like fielding a team of former shortstops, since potentially their 4 out of 5 top prospects are shortstops. If none of them gets dealt in the next 2 to 4 years, do any of them have the tools to transition to the outfield? More like a Jackson Merrill situation and not like a Luciano situation. This is an interesting one, Alex, because we've kind of talked about how they would operate as good trade pieces, how they're all coming into what could be a crowded field simultaneously. But I have a tendency to get very attached to these guys when we talk about them for years and years and years before their debut. So a situation where they develop into different positions is kind of a best case scenario for old Cole.
Yeah, we've talked about that a fair amount, and usually it's infield. But there's a real, strong possibility that one of these guys has moved to center field sometime soon, especially that's often what happens with shortstops. I think it's going to be one of those where one night you just see a box score from Double-A and so-and-so's just playing the outfield.
Yep.
Like, okay.
Oh, interesting.
Here we go. Yeah. So the best case scenario for the Giants is all these guys hit and you get them to a certain point and you figure out who's the shortstop and who's the second baseman. And, maybe none of them are the second baseman because maybe there's someone there already, or maybe none of them are the shortstop because Willie's still there and been so good for, I don't know, however many years. But it is, I got a lot of questions about this from people who are, it's similar to like when they Farhan kept trading for catchers and it became a running joke.
Yeah.
But also like they're constantly out of catching. So it's like, why is he getting another catcher? And it's like, well, you're one foul tip away from adding a rando from AAA to your 40-man roster.
Oh man, and I liked so many of those catchers that swung through for a year or so in the Farhan era. Yeah,
there's a lot of that, but this is a little similar. That it's like the best players all they stuck Cole in left field, but the best players are shortstops and catchers. So,
all right, next question is from Brian. Different Brian, spelt different. Brian says, how high should fans be on Parks Harbor, who tore up the Arizona Fall League? Feels like whenever there's a headlined position player prospect not named Bryce, it ended up being a false hope. Just reminds me of the Vaughn Brown hype. Just want to set my expectations. Alex, do you have a hype level? Can you responsibly, as a journalist, give us a hype level?
I was partially responsible for helping to hype Vaughn Brown. He was like our next Hunter Pence.
Yeah, I remember that well.
He just couldn't stay healthy. So, it's one of those. It is like further down my list of spring training questions because he's not going to be in the mix for opening day. But really curious to see what he looks like. I've gone back to like the GM meetings, winter meetings, like just one of those names I was hearing from other scouts and executives. Like Giants did well to get that guy, and I think we've seen him pop up now on prospect lists. I'm just really curious to see, like, on Wednesday, do I look out there and he's taking fly balls in the left field? Because it almost feels like, I know you don't want to like not develop guys as infielders. To our previous question, you want to keep them at their natural position as long as possible and position where they have value as long as possible. You also look at first base, like that is spoken for the rest of the decade, and third base is spoken for.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of like, stick him in left field, see what happens.
Yeah.
And see how that goes.
All right. Next question, Fernando. Fernando says, how does the Dodger system keep getting ranked so high? I can't think of a single prospect they have traded for Betts, Glasgow, Turner, etc. that is proven to be worth any hype.
Great question. I will say this is one that is it's one of those fan theories that I think has also crossed over to the industry, where a lot of executives, I've talked to some Giants people about this. They're like, what's going on here that the Dodgers just have 6 guys on the top 100 every year? And in the meantime, you look at their big league lineup and it's basically all free
mercenaries.
Yeah. So this is talked about within the industry of what are they doing to consistently get their guys high on these lists. I went back and looked at the Turner trade because at the other ones I knew a little bit. I'd forgotten who they traded. That one was Turner and Max Scherzer, just a blockbuster at the deadline for Gerardo Carrillo. Never heard of him since. Donovan Casey still in the minors. And then Josiah Gray and Kuiper Ruiz, who are the main pieces, are with Washington. Like, they're fine. They're not what they were hyped up as prospects. So
wow. So they polished the little Dodgers shine on these guys, and it bumps their value up 10 points.
However it's happening, it seems like it's happening. I would also say whatever they're doing, the Giants should emulate. So
yes.
I know they don't like prospect lists, and Randy Wynn was on here in January and saying, we hate that stuff, but it is sneaky, and it is helpful when you're making trades. I do think there's I mention this all the time, but I'll go back to Farhan trying to trade for Juan Soto, and he's like, we just did not have a package that if you're the Washington Nationals, you could take to your fan base and be like, hey, we got 2 top 100 guys, 2 top 50 guys, whatever. So that perception matters to executives.
It doesn't matter to the Red Sox executives.
No, they're involved here. So yeah.
I have a lot of family in Boston and New England. And with the Super Bowl yesterday, I just kept thinking about how I think at this point I hate the Red Sox more than the Yankees or anyone like that because of the Betts trade and what they did to enable this current iteration of the Dodgers.
I thought it was interesting seeing the I get it. Like, we're Niner fans as well. I thought it was a coin flip between, like, don't like Seattle, also really tired of all the New England teams. So it was like, I do not want to see the Patriots win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'd root for the, both sides go home unhappy if we could. But
as someone without a ton of skin in the football game, I'm like, I don't care that much about Seattle in the baseball world, or they're a West Coast team, cool. But I know Niners fans have a much saltier relationship with the Seahawks. So I was just like, forget the Patriots; they can lose badly.
I also think that's always been the greater comparison to the Bay Area is Boston is to New York as we are to Los Angeles, and we've had some success here. They've had success. So that's where I'm like, I don't want those teams to win. I don't really care if the New York teams win now. It's been a while for them.
Yeah. All right. We kind of got off topic there. A couple more. Next one's from Nathan. Nathan says, I feel like I haven't heard much about Landon Roop this offseason. Do you have any insight on how he's doing?
We haven't talked much about Landon Roop because he's just kind of, you pencil him in as a mid to back end starter. And he's an interesting piece because he was their best starter for like a month before he got hurt. And we saw real strides from him. I just view him as just reliable if he's healthy. And maybe there's another level for him to reach, but the level he was at last year, that'd be great if you could give him that over a full season. A camp question for us is both him and Eric Miller dealt with real injury scares last year. And we know pitchers, a lot of times you deal with that and you get over it and you come back and you're like, oh, it doesn't feel great. That, from what I've heard, both of them feel good. I think Landon was pushing hard to be in position to help if they did reach the postseason. Like he was out there throwing bullpens late in the year. Miller, I talked to at the end of the year. I talked to some people at FanFest. He was basically cleared by the end of the year as well. So health wise, they both should be in a good spot, and it'd be huge if they're both 100% on opening day.
Next question is from Ed. Ed says, since the CBA deadline is December 1st, do you think the higher priced guys next offseason, like Scooble, will try to sign a big deal before the lockout and potential salary cap happens?
Not Scooble. I do wonder if we'll have a deadline and some, we see a bunch of the, what was it, like Cobb and Wood and Disco Fani, like all those guys signed before the last one.
Yeah.
Back and there was like a 48 hours before the lockout last time where
just a flurry
of like 2-year deals.
I think we'll have a lot more information as it approaches. But it's going to be interesting to see how the biggest names on the market kind of deal with that. Do you wait till afterwards, or do you risk contracts never being the same after that lockout starts?
Yeah. I would guess with Scooble specifically, I mean, he probably wants to shatter pitching records.
Yes.
And he will. So, but yeah, there's going to be a little rush there at some point.
All right. Couple more easy ones. Travis says, with the Super Bowl held in Santa Clara this past weekend, is there any world where a neutral site World Series could be fun for baseball fans?
I hate it.
You hate it? How about this, Alex? Let me pitch you on a version of this because I've thought about this since I got sent it. Whoever hosts the All-Star game hosts game 1 of the World Series and only game 1.
Do you know how annoying that would be as beat writers? Like,
your annoyance fuels me.
All-Star games in Atlanta.
I am fine with you being annoyed.
You know what I'm reminded of every once in a while when I see like the legend shows on our channel, or
which I can never turn away from when they go on. But go on.
And this is one thing that I've forgotten, but how cool Oracle Park was in those World Series.
Yeah.
Like orange flags, and just you see like the pre-first pitch shots, which happens everywhere. It's just we haven't really had that for a long time. So it would really suck if like 3 years from now the Giants get back to the World Series and it's like, hey, guess what? It's in Arlington.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's something to this. I do like the way it kind of makes the Super Bowl an event for everyone, not just the teams playing. But the World Series also ends up being a lot more city focused. You know, you have musical acts that are like how Green Day was at the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think Travis has a nugget of something here.
Well, we have the winter meetings, which is for everyone, and they didn't do anything for a week. So
the winter meetings are for everyone.
We all flew to Orlando to celebrate the industry, and nothing happened.
Fair.
By the way, congratulations to everyone who discovered that San Francisco is cool.
Actually, yes. Shout out to that. It was very nice seeing those viral videos and posts and hot takes.
I think our running joke here has been whenever it comes up in baseball, and which it does occasionally. I'm always just like, can you just take them to the tunnel tops? Like,
exactly.
Just have lunch out there.
Yeah. Next time Rowdy Tellez comes through, you and me will take him up to the Presidio for a beer and a pizza.
They're like, this is nice. I'm like, yeah, we live like this. So,
all right. Nice. Last one. Carly says, you guys talked about emergency podcasts, and I know they're fake since you guys did not do one for Birdsong's Christmas picture posting. Did you see this Christmas picture, Alex, on the Giants Instagram?
Very, very. If you have not seen it, stop listening to the podcast. Go to, I think it's SF Giants Instagram.
I believe so. It's a post from a few days ago, I believe, but Birdsong took such a great photo with his partner and his dog, posed all cheesy in front of the Christmas tree. It's gold. If he was like a stud last year and known and guaranteed to be a big part of this upcoming year, this picture would go down as like all time.
This has been a very we've talked about Hayden Birdsong more than anyone who's not like a free agent. I think it's like Brendan Donovan, Framber Valdez, Hayden Birdsong is our usage count this offseason.
Pretty much.
So he's off to a great start.
He is
what I will say.
Early front runner vibes wise.
And one thing Hayden does have the personality to really, like, if he would become a co-ace or number 3, whatever, like, this is who he is. Like, there's more of this coming down the line if he can figure it out.
Let's keep our eyes open for more of this in 2026. With that, our last podcast of the cold, dark part of the off season. Alex is heading to Scottsdale. Pitchers and catchers are heading to Scottsdale. Giants Talk will be here with much, much more content for the next few weeks leading up to opening day.
I did want to say something on that note. I was thinking about this the last couple of weeks. Everyone knows what happened to the Washington Post, what's happened to their sports page. It sucks just because I love that sports page and they have tremendous baseball coverage. It's going to happen more in this industry. Like, that's where it is a rough time for journalism. And I think it's really cool that we still have such a large group on the beat and has actually gotten bigger because, like, John Shea rejoins last year and there's 2 people covering from the Chronicle. It is a large group of writers. It's very easy to find all their stuff. It is very easy to read all their stories and watch their videos. And I'm not just saying me, but the whole beat. And it's important. I think, like, do not ask AI to summarize articles on Twitter. Eventually, there will be no more articles to summarize. So, spring training, we're all doing long features and we're all doing, I think, interesting stuff, and a great time to just support, I think, everyone in general, but just on this beat, I would say, like, it's not really hard to find their stuff, and it's not also hard to subscribe to some of these places. It's super cheap to just subscribe to the whole beat and read all their Giants coverage. So that is my spiel, because we're very lucky that we all get to go and still spend time in Scottsdale and travel. But there's a world like down the line where you see what's coming, and the important thing is just to continue to consume. And obviously, everyone who listens here, like, we're so appreciative. But read stories, watch videos, listen to podcasts. Yeah, soak it all in.
We are blessed out here in the Giants coverage to have such great writers, you included. What you guys do is awesome. So yeah, anything fans can do, I can do to make sure you're able to continue doing your jobs. Let's ensure that as possible.
I'm a podcaster now, but yeah, it's, there's going to be a lot of fun stories the next few weeks. Read them all, click on them all, at least click on them.
Yeah. Don't do just read the headline and browse past it. Click it, and you can still just read the headline, but give it a click.
Is it Grok or Grok? How do you say it?
I think it's Grok, but I might be thinking of Gronk.
People who underneath stories ask to summarize them, those are the dumbest, auto block. So don't do that.
With that, we're out of here. Don't forget to subscribe to Giants Talk wherever you get your podcast. Leave us some good reviews. Yada, yada, yada. Baseball is here.